right, so we are here with the behind-the-scenes portion of our three-part series here, and we're just going to jump right into it. Essentially, what I want to kick things off with is our most favorited storyline that we've done, what we're just 100% proud about, and then something just why did I do that? And so I guess we'll just get big dog out of the way over here. Murphs, what do you I'm gonna leave PJ in last year. But Murphs, what is your favorite and least?
Obviously I think my favorite would probably be a tie between the Rusev arc, but probably more so the ESM, because ESM obviously is a collaboration with me and my brother. It was actually his idea all the way back from when we used to play Promotion Wars, which is like TW. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yes.
We used to play Promotion Wars all the time. He actually had a group called Elite Sports Management, and I think his number one guy was like Steve Carino or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but Eric Bischoff, I believe. No, wait. I think it was Shane Douglas. It was the franchise who was like the Apollo Crews of the series, and he happened to be watching one of my videos, and he's like, I think we could do like the ESM storyline. And I said, yeah, that'd be great, because very coincidentally I had already started the wheels in motion with Apollo Crews, sending him away to join a conglomerate, but I had no idea what it was going to be called or whatever. But I had the idea to send him away to almost like train him and make him better so he could come back, because he lost to Rich Swann. He had like a whole downfall, and then he snapped, and then he joined this conglomerate. And then my brother came to me at that same time that I'd come up with that and said, should we do Elite Sports Management? And I said, I think I've got the guy. And then the rest is history, as they say. But it was his idea, but then I fleshed it out and made it what it was. And then he came up with the idea of like the paid main events, and how they purchased all the main events on SmackDown and forcing people to see him in a main event light sort of thing, through being paid. And then they were just main event squash matches, which really annoyed people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good, because I want to draw like actual emotion. When I make a storyline, I want to actually annoy you. If you're really annoyed by something or someone constantly winning,
mm-hmm.
that's deliberate, because I feel like that's the only way you can get heat now these days, is like to actually legitimately annoy people with things that are going to annoy them. So
you got a Baron Corbin them.
Exactly. And that was like another one on NXT, like my NXT, that where like people, as soon as I read that one of the first comments was like, that's a wasted spot in that tournament with Baron Corbin. I was like, that's it. That's the one. Because
shout out to whoever that was.
Legitimately annoyed. Shout out to whoever said that.
So, question on that is, do you and your brother still kind of just chat back and forth of what could be
100%.
next? Awesome.
100%. ESM is all majority, the Royal Rumble spot where number 13 was vacant, and it ended up being Brock Lesnar at the end of the match.
Yep.
That was his idea.
Oh wow.
So things like that, we definitely collaborate on, and then he'll throw an idea at me and I'll be like, nah, I don't really like it. Or, we just text randomly, because he's a big wrestling fan. We used to do the podcast together because we said so and stuff. So he knows wrestling, and we grew up obviously in the Attitude Era, so we try and make sure that everybody that's where my mentality comes from, of everybody on the roster has something to do, because that's what it was like back then. Good or bad, someone had something going on. So that's the way I've always gone. In terms of the least favorite, I don't know, my memory's so bad. I guess I get the Hall of Destruction with the Big Show and Mark Henry wasn't great. I think my booking of the Hardcore title as well was pretty bad. I don't think I handled that very well.
And Ambrose was the crowning champion, if I remember correctly, right? Or is that Bray?
Yeah, and then the whole stuff with Bray and Bo, and it got kind of a messy. I think my handling of that was bad, and I think my handling of the tag team division in general is bad. So
to this day,
I think so. I don't. It never gets gets me excited. I find it
Gotcha.
very, very difficult to book tag team
That might be the
wrestling,
game.
even though it should be the same premise as booking singles, but I find it really difficult.
Well, I
get
mean,
it in a
that's-
way, but it could be the game. I get it a bit from the game. It's
Oh my god! Yeah.
I mean, that's what.
Trying to
With the
record.
game. I gotta look at the game and this ref.
Yes.
I mean, that's what this portion
Constant.
of this series is all about. I mean, let that people know. I mean, the true emotions. We don't always enjoy everything that we do. I mean, tag team wrestling. If you did, like, if he may not like booking it or all the time, but I mean, it's obviously a want. It's something that's and it's gonna bring enjoyment to you guys. So I mean, it's something that.
BJ's hit the nail on the head. It's recording the matches that I dread.
Oh, okay.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I can't.
It's
understandable.
referee's just yes, so
Since,
it's really
like, the
bad.
start of the 2K series, I can't stand doing 6-man tag matches.
Mm.
I never do them.
I think I've done
Yeah,
one
I'm
in
trying
like
to
the
avoid
last 2 years, because it was just like every time I do it, I'm just like, right, this is the finish, and you got to spam the middle button on everyone to make sure that no one runs in
Yeah.
on your
Yeah.
on your controllers, and then the guy kicks out. And it's just like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, PJ, what is your favorite and least?
I think the favorite, it's like with moves, it's probably a tie, and neither of them should be surprising to my viewers. It's the Seth Rollins arc. Obviously, there's always a thing about booking someone for a long time. Like Murph said, by the end of the reign, if I wanted people to absolutely despise Rollins, and I wanted them to see him lose so badly. Like I didn't want, if there was someone who was like, oh, why did Seth lose? I was like, I didn't do my job good enough. I wanted you to hate him. I wanted you to see him get his ass kicked. I wanted you to see him tap out, because it was the ultimate payoff. And then, on top of that, I'd probably go with my Kazuchika Okada and Korin feud, because that's kind of where like my ideas seeped from just being like stagnant and keeping to the same old ideas and trying to push myself to get better and better. And that was kind of the feud that took me from like, let's say they to they.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to that feud, and I think that was probably my most personal feud I've ever done, and it was just like, people always liked that part.
Did you find that like? Sorry, Josh.
Oh, no,
like,
you're good.
Did you find that that feud kind of unlocked that nuance side of your brain, like where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I can add like a little detail in here for later, or a little detail in here for later? Because I found that with the ESM stuff. Now that I'm doing a lot of callbacks from the history and all of that sort of thing, I'm having a lot of fun with that, which I don't think I was very good at early, is looking back at history.
It taught me to like nuance in promos. Like I think the last time they ever spoke to each other, I think Korin said to Okada, "I'll miss you, friend."
Yeah.
And it was that little nuance of he does have feelings for him.
Mm.
After all of this, it's those little nuances, and then you kind of pick them up, and you can have those throwbacks. Like if you were doing a multi-brand pay-per-view, you could have two rivals meet backstage. They don't do anything, but people know why there's that little segment of them standing by backstage, or why they're standing.
And that's the sort of stuff that like engages. That's the sort of stuff that people are like, I remember that.
Yeah.
And you feel part of it. I think it's very important.
Could you give like a quick rundown of who Korin is? I mean, there's a lot of people that may not really know.
He is my completely custom-made guy, custom-made face, attire, entrance, moveset, and all that. He's basically like any idea that I want to do, and I want to take a risk with it because I think it might not go well. Usually I'll give it to him, because somehow when it comes to him, something always works. Like I had the idea of a fan being used as leverage backstage to force someone to come out, so I used Korin, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
He's kind of like my test dummy, but at the same time, he's also like that guy who I'm trying to make synonymous with my universe, and it's probably succeeded with my channel, because he's gone from like if you have like a completely custom guy, you both know this. It's not like that you can win them over in one episode. Like the first time they see them, will probably be like, "Why do I care?" Now, because I haven't booked him in a while, a lot of people are asking, when is he coming back?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, he's like that gauge as well of how interested people are.
Oh yeah.
My probably least favorite ideas was probably my booking of the women's division for about 2 years. It was terrible. I got rid of women for like a year because I didn't know what to do with them at all.
Sexist.
sorry. I'm just into big burly men. That
Cancel PJ.
And then I brought them back, and immediately upon bringing them back, I didn't know what to do with them. And, you know, and it took a lot of time. Like, it wasn't like overnight. It was like, oh, this is fine now. No, it's like 2 years later, and things are still a bit sketchy on one of the brands.
Gotcha. For me, I'll start off with my favorite, and I think we literally all have the same favorite, is our year-long reigns. I did it with Kevin Owens, which for me, my story is a little different because I was primarily on Twitch, and had everything on there. I didn't do YouTube. I technically did YouTube, but I just uploaded like past broadcasts, which that never went anywhere on that old channel. But anyway, so it started basically how he won. For those unfamiliar, he was kind of the I always had like the authority for a while. I was just really into it back when they started in like 2014, 2013, whenever they started IRL. And Kevin Owens was like the Seth Rollins, if that makes sense, of like what he did IRL. And so it was at an Extreme Rules pay-per-view. It was Kevin Owens versus Josh Jenkins, my created character, and Jenkins at the time was like the chairman. There was no Vince, and it was like for a career versus career type thing. KO shoved Jenkins straight off the ladder, won, and that people didn't expect anything other than that. Triple H was fighting AJ Styles for the WWE title later in the night. Triple H won, but then the whole plan, because Triple H is, you know, like the COO, and he laid down for KO to come out. I mean, it was at the time, and there was a lot more I could have done with it, but again, that was like early 2K18 stages. So my booking was, you know, there was a lot of holes. I mean, I'm first to admit a lot of holes in my booking back then, but regardless, that's how he won. He pinned Triple H, and Triple H just handed the title. The whole thing was to give it to KO. But anyway, went on for a year, and it ended where he never lost it. He was fired by Vince McMahon, the corrupt Vince McMahon, and later on KO returns, and he's Vince's guy to fight for the company, and it all comes back to Jenkins, who's on the other side of the plate, picking his guy, which is CM Punk. So it's like, I've always dubbed KO as like the best in the world as far as my universe mode is concerned, and Punk is already known as best in the world, so that's where that leads. So that's definitely my favorite. I think it started out rocky, just because, like I said, my booking was very kind of sloppy in some ways. So as things picked up, and I loved how it ended, people were actually more, I think, mad than anything, because I've grown to make them hate Vince, and it's very easy, just because of, you know, IRL. I mean,
it's the easiest go-to.
Exactly. So I just figured I'd blame it all on him, and it ties in with my women's division. The women's division wasn't getting any time at all, and I blamed it on Vince. He wasn't allowing them time because he wanted his own little segments and stuff. So that's how it tied in. So that's, you know, I love that. But I guess it also ties into my worst, which is probably women's division. As far as I ended it, which I like to note. If you started a storyline that you may be confident in, and say, you know, a month later you're like, I really don't like this. If you don't like it, I mean, you end it. Find a way to end it. Don't do what I've done and just never come back to it, but just try and find a way to end it. I mean, there's always some way to end something if you truly dislike it, and if you don't see it going anywhere. If you have a premiere, like as a perfect example now, if you have a premiere, there's a match going, and there hasn't been a comment for a few minutes, it kind of tells me, in a way, that people are not that invested. Maybe you might have them just sitting there, but I highly doubt they're sitting there like, oh my god, I love this match, and not saying anything. If I'm a viewer and I'm watching something, I'm typing as I'm watching it, because I want to express my enjoyment, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I had Tamina Snuka come out and have a super kick party. She took out Nia Jax, and the current, at that time, SmackDown Women's Champion. I was trying to push Dana Brooke, didn't really go anywhere, but Dana Brooke was champion. You have Nia Jax and Tamina, so look at that three circle. I personally am a fan of Dana Brooke. I think she's super athletic. I mean, she lacks in her promo skills and stuff, and that's something I could have definitely pushed. Like, for example, like an Apollo. I mean, he doesn't have that much charisma if you base off of his, you know, IRL, just how he's booked and everything, but you gave him that charisma. So I could have done the same with Dana, but I didn't. But yeah, that's probably the worst. So
that's also something that, like, you can, like, that probably wouldn't necessarily work IRL. Sometimes people are like, I wish Apollo was booked like this IRL. There's no guarantee that he's going to be able to do what I do. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of the way, that's why the theory was we give him Eric Bischoff as a mouthpiece, is because we tried to keep it sort of realistic that Apollo probably wouldn't be able to deliver like Eric Bischoff would, or like Paul Heyman would. So that was we try and think as realistically as we can when it comes to ESM, and I think that's sort of part of the success is because it could feasibly happen. Like you could feasibly do this,
right? So yeah, but like another way of backing out of it, I guess I somewhat did find a loophole to back out of it. I had Nikki Cross basically have this story 'cause she was taken out at WrestleMania, just like an attack by Dana. That was my way of pushing Dana. Again, kind of failed, but a Nikki Cross thing, which I like to point out, like was very somewhat similar to what Murph said. See, that's sometimes things do run into a collision where it's like very similar patterns than what someone else is doing.
But I think sometimes it's just obvious, right? Like Nikki Cross is mentioned. So like it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel, and it's not like you're copying me. Like it's just that sometimes that annoys me, to be honest. Is like people are like, "Oh, you're just doing that like him." It's like, well, that's the obvious thing. Like, what else? You're not going to make her.
She's not
like
going to be skipping down the ring or anything.
Leader and stuff. Like, this is who Nikki Cross is. We like that, so you do that. It's not.
For sure.
It's not like copying or anything.
Yeah. So that was my loophole. Just had her come back after an injury. I was going to have it kind of played out longer, but I just saw it wasn't going anywhere. Nikki Cross had to come and save the day, but then that fell flat, and now I'm doing the whole women's revolution with doing an all women's pay-per-view of Evolution, which I don't think anybody's done. So that kind of,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
And I'm doing the all women's Money in the Bank, and so that ties it up for our favorite and least favorite stuff. I guess I've been itching to want to explain this. So I guess I'll, just so I have it fresh on my mind, I'll jump to you guys right after I quickly explain a quick tip and trick type deal. So if you guys have any, I mean, I'll let you guys think of them or whatever. But for me, which it was so helpful up until Murph's chucked me a link yesterday, which today is the 16th of April, so the 15th of April.
Heavily dated. Can't wait for this to come out mid-July.
But yeah, anyways, so he chucked me a link for renders, like in-game renders. If you don't know what a render is, it's like a PNG form. If you see like superstars, you know, on WWE.com, they have their title or whatever, and they don't have a background. That's what a render is, because I had a question earlier. They didn't know what a render was. So that's what a render is. And what I did, which is something maybe it could still be of use, I just want to explain quickly, is a green screen arena, which is literally you color everything in the arena green. It's self-explanatory, I guess, in some ways. And you have a little curved mini-tron, it's like a half circle, like the old SmackDown Tron, I think it was. And you obviously get your renders that way, and you just do a chroma key filter, and it just wipes the background out, and there you go. You have a PNG render.
So just to explain that, like you go into highlight reel.
Yes.
Get your shot, right, so you can get like a good, clean, high-res picture.
Yes.
And then take the background out. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, up until recently, that's what I was doing, and I actually noticed I thought the renders were good quality, but it just shows like the difference when I'll explain in a minute what I'm talking about, but the difference, like the 2K20's lighting is just so bad. I'd never noticed how bad it was until I started doing what Murph's recommended, which is what he recommended was I'll chuck the link in the description for anybody that's interested, but it's basically remove background. I have no idea how they do it. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, it just removes anything. It just picks up like an animal, a face, whatever, and it works perfect. And you do your whole go into creation suite. You do the poses, when you're doing a tire or a car or whatever, and you zoom in, and you don't have to have a green screen background. None of that. It's just a background. Even an entrance. You do it in an entrance if you would like, and sometimes it's a little choppy. It depends how the lighting is in the background. Like Pete Dunne's didn't work for me, but so like it's incredible. Murph has more experience than I do with that, but I'll chuck the link in the description if you guys want to toy around with that. So yeah, I mean, do you guys have any like tips or tricks that you would like to put out in the air?
Well, just to add on to that, like it's basically you just go to the menu screen pose in the creation suite, and then go to the free camera. And if you've kind of got to have an Elgato or some kind of capture device. Otherwise, you can't take it with your iPhone or whatever. Well, you can, but like it probably wouldn't look very good.
Yeah.
You go in, you get their pose so they're shaped up the way you want. You go free camera, you get your right shot, and then you crop that shot, and then you put it to that website, and it just comes out clean. And I don't know how. Again, I don't know how they do it. But yeah, it's brilliant. But that would be like one of the main ones.
For sure.
I think everything else has been sort of covered in terms of tips and tricks.
Yeah.
My
just
quick one, I won't spend long on this one. My quick one would be, if you got a main event or whatever, this is something that I started doing a while back and I realized it was way better. If you got a main event, you want it to go kind of long, get a stopwatch out. You have a stopwatch on your app. You have a stopwatch on your phone. Just get that out, time it. Then you know, because you can sit there and think, oh, that match went about 15 minutes. You put it in, you put it into edit. Oh, it was 8.
Yeah.
So
I generally look at because I have Elgato, obviously. Generally look at the time, and I'll go, particularly like because in WWE 2K20, right, we have to stop and start a lot. So I quite often will go, okay, I'm up to about 4 minutes before I reach that edit point when I use the highlight reel sort of thing. So you go, say you've thrown someone in the corner, you exit out because you messed up. Okay, I'm going to take it from the corner.
Yeah.
So I'll look at the time. Okay, I'm at 3 minutes there. I know that I want this match to go about 10, and then just go from there. But stopwatch is another good. If you can get a one-take match, the stopwatch is perfect.
Yeah, it's like for me, I do on OBS Studio, and it automatically says the time. So like right now, for this video, it's 20 minutes and some seconds on there. So it just automatically tells me, and it's very helpful in that way. And yeah, back to the matches, like a leave point. I mean, that is insanely helpful. I mean, you don't want to be in an awkward position if you have to stop there and come back to it. You want to corners perfect, or if you know that if you have to do more complex stuff and you can't do it just in a normal one-on-one match, traditional rules and whatever. I mean, do it in a corner, or have someone do a taunt, and when they're in that mid taunt, you quickly pan in on them and then pan out of them. Or exactly. I mean, the scapegoat, I think it's probably the most well known, but if you don't know, is a quick crowd pan. I mean, it's
100%.
It's not the best. It's not the best, but it's like a save for everything. I mean, it's incredible. So that's just a quick little tip for that. But
yeah, sometimes I'll do that retrospectively. Like sometimes I won't remember to use the highlight reel as an edit point.
Yeah.
And then I'll mess up really badly, and then so I'll go back through the footage that I've just recorded and maybe find where the camera changed an angle on a certain move, and then maybe get back into that position and do that move again, and sort of pick it up from there, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how sometimes the camera will go down low into the ring or something while you've got a submission on?
Yes.
You can get them in that same spot, do the same submission, and then do the submission break, and then get out of it that way. That just saves a little bit of time rather than go, all right, I'm just going to start all the way again and try and re-record that 3 minutes. Because you might enjoy that 3 minutes. It might be perfect for the story. And so you're like, well, I don't think I can do that any better. I'll find an edit point and I'll just take it. I'll pick it up from there.
For sure.
It's basically what I do.
I guess to round this whole thing up and wrap it up basically of saying that I think my overall, because to make it known, we all kind of picked our portions of what we wanted to talk about, and so I wanted to kind of do the whole tips and tricks thing, and my biggest, I guess, piece of advice in a way is to, again, ties in with the first portion on PJ's channel, is that if you're going to do this, you don't want to just remain the same for too long, if that makes any sense. Remain the same as far as what you do. You want to kind of go outside the box a little bit, be innovative, and do the unusual, if that makes sense. Say, for example, like Murph's, he's done the whole concrete spot, as if you pulled back that concrete. Obviously, that's not something you do in the game, but it's an edit. Be creative. I mean, it's okay to... It's a video game at the end of the day. If a concrete block, I almost did that, a spot, and it you just have to position it well enough and make it seem as if it's realistic enough to actually have happened. And then if you want to do like a pile driver on concrete, like a concrete cement block or whatever, you pan out and do it at an angle where it's not, you can't see it.
Well, you can't see it, but it's there. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, you got to go outside the bubble if you want to stand out. I mean, what is somebody going to remember watching your video? Are they going to remember a 15-minute match that they could see in, you know, X, Y, and Z's channel? Or are they going to remember something that's like, oh my goodness, that spot was so cool, I've never seen anything like that? I mean, I'm not saying you got to do that constantly, but, you know, every once in a while, spice it up. You know, have a little fun with it. So
I try and have like one truly memorable thing in everything I do, in every show. Whether it be a cliffhanger, or whether it be, oh wow, that spot was unbelievable, or that match was really good.
Yeah.
Even one thing to make people go, wow, I really enjoyed that. Even if 85% of the show they were sort of like, you know, that was fun, but that 15% was like awesome.
Yeah.
I think try and aim for, you don't have to do the big crazy chaos ending like I do like 90% of the time, but you try and have some memorable stuff. You know, I know that's very broad, but like I think that's just a general rule of thumb. It's like just try and makes that's what makes people come back. Oh, I wonder if you'll do something else cool, or I wonder if that match will be as good as the one that was last week, or you know, that sort of thing.
100%. You have anything to tie in that, PJ?
No, I got nothing.
All right, cool. PJ's got nothing. I got nothing. Murph's has got nothing. So we're gonna round this one off of behind the scenes. Hopefully it did help. Again, any questions pertaining to this, drop it in the comments. This will be on my channel. Obviously, as you see, you're watching on my channel. And we have one more part of this 3-part series going to be on Murph's channel. And we're going to head off, boys. So, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you in the next one.